It was December 22nd when it all started. I was alone in my house in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Portland, Oregon. My wife had traveled to spend Christmas with her parents in California, and I stayed behind because of work. The street where I live is one of those typical American suburbs, spaced out houses, yards with Christmas decorations, and at that time of year, most of the neighbors travel. So basically I had the entire street to myself. It was exactly 9 o'clock at night when the doorbell rang. I was in the living room watching TV, eating leftover pizza. Outside it had been dark for hours and light snow was falling, covering my front yard with that white layer that glistened under the Christmas lights. I thought it was strange for someone to ring the doorbell at that hour, but I figured maybe it was a neighbor or a late delivery. When I opened the door, there was a man standing there. He looked to be in his mid-40s, wearing a dark blue jacket that looked like a postal or delivery uniform, holding a clipboard with a neutral expression on his face. He greeted me politely and said he had a special Christmas delivery that required a personal signature. I looked at his hands. There was no package, just the clipboard. I thought that was bizarre and asked where the package was. He told me it was in the truck, but that he first needed to confirm my identity and collect the signature. I replied that he could leave it at the door, that I would sign whatever was necessary later. But he insisted. Said it was protocol that he couldn't leave it without the signature first, and that it would only take a minute. Something about the way he spoke bothered me. He wasn't aggressive, but there was a strange insistence, as if he really needed me to come out of the house or let him in. I told him I wasn't expecting any delivery and that maybe it was the wrong address. He looked at the clipboard and read my complete address out loud, then looked directly into my eyes and said, "This is it. Special delivery for Brian." He knew my name. I hadn't told him my name. I felt a chill run up my spine. I told him I wasn't going to sign anything and that he should leave the package at the door or take it away. Then I closed the door in his face. Locked it immediately. Through the window next to the door, I watched. The man didn't move. He just stood there, completely motionless, staring fixedly at the door. Not down, not to the sides, but directly at where I was on the other side. It was as if he knew I was watching. The streetlight partially illuminated his face, and he had an empty, almost robotic expression. A minute passed, then 2, then 5. He didn't move. He just stood there holding the clipboard, looking at the door. I started to feel a growing anxiety in my chest. This wasn't normal. No delivery person would stand still for that long. I grabbed my phone and thought about calling the police, but part of me still thought maybe he was just someone confused or with mental problems. After a full 10 minutes, the man finally moved. But instead of leaving, he took a few steps to the side and disappeared from my view. My heart raced. I ran to the kitchen window that faced the side of the house. I saw nothing. Then I heard it. A low sound, as if someone was testing a window. The noise was coming from the office at the back of the house. I ran there and saw through the curtain the man's silhouette. He was outside trying to open the window, pushing lightly, testing if it was locked. When he realized it was locked, he moved to the next window, and then to the next. He was systematically testing every window in the house. That's when the panic really took over. This wasn't a confused delivery person. This was someone trying to get into my house. I grabbed the phone and dialed 911, but before the call went through, I heard a much louder noise coming from the kitchen. It was the back door being shaken violently. He was trying to force entry. The noise was horrible. Dry thuds, the sound of the doorknob being twisted forcefully, kicks at the bottom of the door. And then I started hearing his voice. He was shouting, "Open the door. I need to make the delivery. I can't go back without making the delivery. Open this door." The voice was desperate, almost panicked, as if he was in trouble for not being able to deliver something. I finally managed to complete the call to 911. I frantically explained that a man was trying to break into my house. The operator told me to lock all the doors, hide in a safe room, and not confront the intruder. She said the police were on their way. I locked myself in the upstairs bedroom with a baseball bat I kept in the closet and stayed listening. The banging continued for a few more minutes. Then it stopped abruptly. Total silence. That was almost worse, because I didn't know where he was or what he was doing. I stood frozen in the bedroom, listening to my own breathing, waiting for the police to arrive. When I finally heard the sirens approaching, I ran downstairs. 2 officers arrived and did a complete sweep around the house. They found deep footprints in the snow, showing exactly where the man had circulated from the front door to the side of the house, testing each window, to the back where he had tried to break down the door. The footprints then followed along the side until they disappeared into the street. The officers wrote everything down, but said that without more information or security cameras, there wasn't much they could do. They recommended I install cameras and keep everything locked. They said it was probably someone trying to rob empty houses during the holiday. But something about it didn't seem like a common burglary. It felt personal. After the police left, the house seemed bigger and emptier than ever. I checked every lock 3 times. I pushed a chair against the back door. I barely slept that night. The next day in the morning when I opened the door to get the newspaper, I found a white envelope on the porch floor. It had no stamp, no return address, just my name handwritten on the front. With trembling hands I opened it. Inside was a sheet of paper with a typed list. It was a list of all the residents on my street. Each name had an address and a time written next to it. When I got to my name, I felt my stomach turn. Brian Morrison, 1247 Maple Street, 9 p.m. alone. Someone had researched the entire street, knew who was home, knew who was alone, and had specifically chosen the time when I would be most vulnerable. I called the police immediately. They took the envelope but said that without fingerprints or more evidence, it remained difficult to act. They increased patrols in the area, but no suspect was found. My wife came back 2 days later, and I had never felt so relieved to see someone in my life. I told her everything. We installed cameras. We changed the locks. But the feeling of security was never the same. What scares me to this day isn't just what happened. It's knowing that man had a plan. He had information. And if the back door hadn't been locked, if I had taken longer to call the police, what would have happened? He never came back, at least not that I know of. But every time someone rings the doorbell at night, my whole body tenses up, and I take a few seconds before opening the door. When Rachel moved into the house on Newberry Lane, she thought she had finally found the perfect place to start over. It was a quiet street in a residential neighborhood in the suburbs of Seattle, with old, well-maintained houses, large trees on the sidewalk, and the kind of neighborhood where people greet each other and decorate their houses for Christmas. Rachel had her son Tommy, who had just turned 10, and after a difficult divorce, she wanted a place where they could feel safe and build new memories. They moved in early December. The house was beautiful, 2 stories with a small front yard and a backyard. It needed some repairs but nothing that bothered them. Tommy was excited because he would have a bigger room, and Rachel was happy to finally have a space just for them. On the second day after the move, while Rachel was unloading some boxes from the car, a man crossed the street from the house across. He looked to be about 60 years old, gray hair, wearing a wool sweater and had a warm smile on his face. He introduced himself as Mr. Palmer and said he had lived there for a long time. He brought a tray of still warm cookies and welcomed Rachel and Tommy to the neighborhood. Rachel thought the gesture was very kind. Mr. Palmer seemed to be the ideal type of neighbor, polite, helpful, and with that gentle grandfather manner. He offered help if they needed anything, recommended the best markets in the area, and even mentioned that Tommy would love the local school because it had a great sports program. The following week, Mr. Palmer showed up again. This time he brought a gift for Tommy, an expensive remote control car, still in the box. He said he had bought it for his grandson, but the boy already had the same one, so he thought Tommy would like it. Tommy was ecstatic. Rachel thanked him but felt a slight discomfort. It was a very expensive gift for someone they barely knew. What really bothered her was when Mr. Palmer commented, "I bet Tommy will love this model, he seems to really like fast cars." Rachel was confused. How did he know Tommy liked cars? Had she mentioned that? She didn't remember. Maybe Tommy had mentioned it to him? But when she asked Tommy later, the boy said he had only talked to Mr. Palmer once and briefly. During the 3rd week of December, Rachel began to notice something strange. Mr. Palmer was showing up in the same places as her. At the grocery store, he was there, in the same aisle, and greeted her with surprise as if it were a coincidence. At Tommy's school, she saw him standing across the street just watching. When she waved, he waved back and left. At a coffee shop where she had gone to work on her laptop one afternoon, he came in, ordered a coffee, and sat at a table not too far away. Rachel tried to rationalize. It was a small town. It was possible to run into the same neighbor in various places. But something about the frequency of these encounters seemed calculated. Tommy mentioned one night during dinner that Mr. Palmer had asked about their Christmas tree, if they had already bought one and what kind they preferred. He also asked about Rachel's Christmas plans, if they were going to travel or stay home. Tommy innocently answered that they were staying, because his mom wanted to make a special Christmas just for the 2 of them. Rachel felt a tightness in her chest. Why was Mr. Palmer asking so many questions? And why was he asking Tommy instead of asking her directly? She started paying more attention. In the 4th week of December, 3 days before Christmas, Rachel woke up in the middle of the night thirsty. It was 2 in the morning. When she went to the kitchen to get water, she looked out the front window almost by reflex. Her heart almost stopped. Mr. Palmer was standing in the street right in front of her house. He wasn't walking. He didn't have a dog. He was just standing, staring fixedly at the house. The streetlight partially illuminated his face, and even from a distance, Rachel could see he was completely motionless, like a statue. She backed away from the window, her heart racing. She waited a few minutes, then looked again. He was still there. Same position. Same posture. How long had he been there? Since when? Rachel couldn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, when she looked out the window, Mr. Palmer was gone. She tried to convince herself that maybe he had insomnia, or that he had gone out for a walk and just stopped for a moment. But deep down, she knew that wasn't normal. That same day, Rachel decided to confront him. Not aggressively, but she needed to understand what was happening. She crossed the street and rang Mr. Palmer's doorbell. He opened the door with that same gentle smile, but when he saw the serious expression on Rachel's face, the smile diminished a bit. Rachel asked directly if he had been in front of her house the night before. Mr. Palmer hesitated for a moment, then admitted yes. He said he had gone out for a walk because he couldn't sleep, and that he had stopped to admire her house's Christmas decorations. He said they reminded him of how the house used to be. Rachel frowned. Used to be? That's when Mr. Palmer told her. That house had been his. He had lived there for over 20 years with his wife, Margaret. They had decorated that house together every Christmas. Had created memories there. But Margaret had passed away 2 years ago from cancer, and Mr. Palmer fell into a deep depression. He couldn't take care of the house anymore, couldn't live there without her. The family eventually convinced him to sell and move to the smaller house across the street, easier to care for. He said that seeing Rachel and Tommy there had been difficult at first, but also comforting. Because the house seemed alive again. Had a family again. He said he just wanted to help, be a good neighbor, and perhaps feel that he was still part of that house somehow. Rachel felt a mixture of compassion and discomfort. She understood grief, understood loss. But this was crossing boundaries. She told him, kindly but firmly, that she appreciated his kindness, but that he needed to give her and Tommy space. That they needed to build their own memories there. Mr. Palmer nodded, but there was something in his eyes that left her uneasy. Something empty and distant. On Christmas Eve, Rachel and Tommy decorated the house. They put up the tree in the living room, hung lights, and made cookies together. Tommy was radiant, and Rachel finally began to relax. Maybe the conversation with Mr. Palmer had worked. He hadn't shown up or bothered them since then. Tommy went to sleep at 10 at night, anxious for Christmas. Rachel stayed up a bit longer, organizing the presents under the tree. It was almost midnight when she heard the doorbell ring. Her heart jumped. Who would ring the doorbell at midnight on Christmas Eve? She went to the door and looked through the peephole. It was Mr. Palmer. He was standing on the porch, wearing a dark suit, holding something in his hands. Rachel opened the door just a crack, leaving the security chain attached. Mr. Palmer? It's very late. What do you need? He smiled, but it was a different smile. Forced. Trembling, Rachel, I brought this for you and Tommy. For Christmas. He lifted a small wrapped box. Rachel replied, I appreciate it, but you didn't need to. You could have given it tomorrow. Mr. Palmer shook his head. No, it has to be now. Family tradition. Margaret always delivered presents exactly at midnight. Rachel felt a chill down her spine. She responded with a firm voice, Mr. Palmer, Tommy and I are not your family. Please go home. We can talk tomorrow. His smile disappeared completely. His eyes went vacant. But, you're in my house. This is my house. This is where I spend Christmas with my family. Rachel started to close the door, but Mr. Palmer pushed against it. Wait. I just want to come in. I just want to have Christmas with my family one more time. Margaret, let me in. He was pushing the door forcefully now, and Rachel realized with horror that he was confused. He thought she was his wife. He wasn't seeing Rachel. He was seeing Margaret. Rachel screamed for him to leave and ran to get the phone. Mr. Palmer started banging on the door with his fists, shouting, Margaret, please. I just want our family back. Let me come home. Rachel called 911 while Mr. Palmer continued banging and shouting. Tommy woke up scared and came down the stairs crying. Rachel hugged him and said everything was okay, that the police were coming. The police arrived in less than 10 minutes. When they showed up, Mr. Palmer was sitting on Rachel's porch steps, crying. He didn't resist when the officers approached. He just kept repeating, I just wanted my family back. I just wanted to spend one more Christmas at home. The officers were gentle with him. They discovered he had a history of depressive episodes since his wife's death. They called his children who came to get him. One of them, a woman in her 40s, apologized profusely to Rachel. She said her father had gotten worse recently, but that they didn't imagine it would get to this point. Rachel decided not to file formal charges. She saw that Mr. Palmer was sick, trapped in a grief that was consuming him. But she made it clear that she didn't want any more contact. After everyone left, Rachel took Tommy back to bed. She reassured him, said everything was okay now. But when she went back downstairs to lock everything again, something caught her attention. The basement door was ajar. She was sure it had been closed. With her heart racing, she went down the creaky wooden steps. The basement was dark and smelled musty. There were some old boxes left by the previous owners that she hadn't gotten to yet. On top of one of them, illuminated by a dim bulb, there was a book. It was a diary. On the cover, in faded cursive, Margaret Palmer. Rachel opened it with trembling hands. The entries were from the last decade. And the more she read, the more her blood ran cold. Margaret wrote about Mr. Palmer's behavior. How he had become increasingly obsessive, controlling. He wouldn't let her go out alone. Questioned all her movements. Would stand watching her while she slept. An entry from 2 months before Margaret's death said, "I'm afraid of Richard. He's no longer the man I married. There's something broken in him. Sometimes when he looks at me, I don't see love. I see possession. As if I were property, not a person. I don't know what he would do if I tried to leave." Rachel closed the diary, trembling. Margaret had died of cancer. But had it been just that? Had the stress, the fear, Mr. Palmer's obsession accelerated the disease? Had she suffered in silence until the end? Rachel went up the stairs quickly, locked the basement door, and checked all the house locks 3 times. She didn't sleep that night. Just sat in the living room with all the lights on, waiting for dawn to come. The next day, Christmas was quiet, but Rachel couldn't completely relax. She looked out the window constantly, checking if Mr. Palmer was there. He wasn't. A few days later, his children came back to get more belongings, and mentioned they were admitting their father to a mental health clinic. Rachel never saw Mr. Palmer again. But she also never felt completely safe in that house. She thought about Margaret, about how she must have felt trapped. And Rachel wondered how many nights Margaret had stayed awake, hearing footsteps, feeling eyes watching, knowing that the person who should protect her was exactly the one she needed protection from. They lived there for 6 more months before Rachel decided to sell and move. She told Tommy she wanted a fresh start. But the truth was she couldn't be in that house anymore without feeling the presence of everything that had happened there. Without feeling the weight of Mr. Palmer's sick grief. Without imagining Margaret trapped in her own home. Kindness can be dangerous when it comes from someone who doesn't understand boundaries. And obsession disguised as love is one of the scariest things that exists. 2 stories. 2 types of terror. The first, a calculating predator who chose a vulnerable target and had a plan. The second, a man destroyed by grief who couldn't accept that the past was over. What's scarier? The stranger stalking you in the shadows? Or the kind neighbor you greeted every day? The answer is both. Because both make you question whether you're really safe in your own home. If you enjoyed these stories, leave your like. Subscribe to the channel for more horror stories. And tell me in the comments, which of the 2 stories scared you more? Merry Christmas. Lock your doors.